Welcome back to College Football Addiction. The playoffs are here. It feels like it was just yesterday that we were talking about the ACC Championship. We've got Brian from Clemson Football Live on to talk about this first-round playoff game, the 5-12 matchup, Clemson and Texas. Appreciate BetUS. We'll talk about them in a minute. But Brian, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. We're finally here. The game is right around the corner. So all of the anticipation, the arguing of who should be in, who shouldn't be in, who should be seated where, it's not going to matter in about 5 days. So this is exciting, and I'm ready for the game to kick off.
Yeah, no, I was telling somebody else, I've never been a big fan of playoff expansion. I think this 12-team playoff is going to be fantastic. Like, there's no one matchup that's just like, oh, well, this is a surefire this or that. I know Boise's in there, but most of these matchups are great. I think even for the 5-12, we've got a really fun one that is pretty underrated. Now, if one team or the other doesn't show up, they could be in trouble because there's a lot of talent on both sides. But I think if both teams play well, I think we're in store for a pretty good game. A lot of highs and lows around Clemson, and I kind of know where you lie on a lot of things, but what's the overall mood of the fan base going into this game? And again, ups and downs through the season, start off poor, go on a good stretch, end kind of poor, way back up high, the roller coaster that it's been. Where is the fan base at right now, just 4 or 5 days out from a college football playoff game?
I think the majority of the fan base is just still kind of getting their bearings about them, but they're thankful to have a 10-win season, an ACC championship, and now a place in the college football playoff. I think that a lot of them are like, look, we know what happened, but we're glad that we're here. You really can't complain with 10 wins, a conference championship, and now playing in the college football playoff. So a lot of them are happy, but some of them are kind of like me. I'm looking at this going, hey, this is cool, but there's still a lot of outstanding issues that need to be fixed. And really the big question is, can our coaching staff coach a complete game? Because they haven't done it all season long. So I think that if Clemson were to pull the upset against Texas in Austin, I think that it will be because the coaching staff finally coached a complete game.
So thinking about this game, I do think that maybe one advantage that Clemson has, and I don't know how much people have talked about this or kind of thought through this, is do you feel like the pressure is kind of off them? Like just even a couple of weeks ago, nobody expected them to be here. After they lost to Louisville, I think a lot of people thought like, oh, well, that's probably it. Like Miami's path is pretty easy. SMU's path is pretty easy. They probably aren't going to make it. And then even again, losing to South Carolina and Miami's got a 21-0 lead. You're like, oh, well, we'll go to the Cheez-It Bowl or whatever. I guess it's the Pop-Tart Bowl now, what Miami's playing in. We'll go there and play some Big 12 team, and that'll be the way we try and end our season. So I feel like it's almost just so much house money, certainly probably from the fan base's side, but also the players. Like, nobody believes in the players. Nobody thinks that Clemson can win this. Everyone sees the mighty SEC, this big brand of Texas, and thinks that like, oh, why even show up, right? And so to me, obviously Clemson will use that as motivation, but I also think it does help them play a little more loose. Like, hey, we got nothing to lose here. We're the 12 seed. We're the ones that wouldn't be in without the automatic qualifier. We're the ones that are voted last in this. And so again, it might be motivation, but I think it also might be just a way for them to go out and play and have fun and play loose.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I believe all the pressure in the world is on Texas for so many reasons. Yeah, Clemson doesn't supposed to be here. They lost 3 games. And I even talked about earlier this season, even asked the question, would a 3-loss team, mainly the SEC, end up in the college football playoff? I was wrong. It was an ACC team, and it ended up being my team. So a lot of people are like, hey, Clemson shouldn't be there. We're not going to go through all those reasons, but we know why. So they go into Austin, Texas, and let's just say they get the doors blown off of them.
I'll get right back to chatting with Brian, but first I do want to give some love to BetUS. Make sure that you're betting with BetUS this weekend for all the college football games. You can get a 150% sign-up bonus using the code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. On your first deposit, you'll get a 150% bonus. Your next 2 deposits, 125% each. All of that up to $2,000. You like the Tigers, you like the Longhorns, you like the over, you like the under? Go bet on it with BetUS this weekend. Thank you to BetUS for your support.
Texas, you did your job in a lot of people's opinion, but you even let Clemson play close with Texas, Let me tell you what's going to be whispered behind Texas' back, and maybe even some people will say it to their face. You guys, every time you play a big game, you either lose or you almost lose. You lost to Georgia twice. The schedule was not that tough compared to other SEC schools, and you go in and you play this ACC outcast coming into this game, and I'm talking about for this season of Clemson. Clemson's not elite like they were. They come in and they barely beat Clemson. A lot of people are going to be going, does Sark really have it? I mean, he has all of this money at his disposal. I mean, think about when they were recruiting Arch Manning. They spent over $280,000 the weekend they brought him into Austin. Okay, that's how much money they have down there. Playing a Clemson team that doesn't have that budget, and even if they barely beat them, there's going to be a lot of whispers of like, what is going on there? Also, think about this, TJ. Clemson has Cade Klubnik, and sitting behind him, unless you're a Clemson fan, you don't know who the backup quarterback is. If we're talking about Texas, let's say Quinn Ewers starts to not do so well against Clemson, what do you think you're going to hear in the stands? Put Arch in, put Arch in, put Arch in. Cade Klubnik can come into this game and chill out and not have to worry about little murmurings of put in the backup quarterback. Not so with Texas. So there's a lot of pressure on Texas from how they should beat Clemson to who's the backup quarterback, all the way to how much money they spend on football compared to Clemson. So Clemson, I think they go into this game and all pressure's off.
Yeah, you even mentioned that. Like as much as Clemson has like to lose here, again, relatively, like kind of with where their season is and how they played and stuff. If I don't want to play the moral victory game, Clemson fans want to go and win this game. But if Clemson wants to come in and lose this game by 3, a good game where both teams play fairly well, Texas just kind of ekes it out because they're the better team and they've been the better team this year. I think Clemson fans they're not going to be happy with that. And I'm going to get lit up in the comments for even saying this. But when you really look back at it, if you play Texas fairly well, it almost does show that there is something to build on. Okay, look, we can compete. We are right there. We certainly improved from where we were at the end of or at the beginning of the year to where we are now, right? The way that we played the Georgia game. And again, South Carolina is a good team too. South Carolina got voted ahead of Clemson. And the only reason they're not in is because of the tiebreak. And so, or the auto bid. And so, yeah, I think if you can play Texas closely, I think that says a lot too. Again, not to play the moral victory game, not to play the, you covered, wow, great, you still went home. But I do think there's something to be said about that too. Like Clemson can't go in here and lose this thing by 17 plus. Like they need to be competitive. They need to show that they're still kind of relevant. What about Texas? You mentioned Quinn, you mentioned Arch. What about Texas in kind of watching them and getting ready for this game? What worries you about them the most?
It's their defense, and I know the looks that they're going to give our offense. And my question is, will we make the proper adjustments to their adjustments, the anticipation to their adjustments? And really, I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier. Will our coaching staff on both sides of the football, mainly the play callers, will they anticipate the changes and anticipate it correctly? Texas is going to pin their ears back, and they're going to come after Cade Klubnik. Cade has proven that he's mobile, he can move, he can extend a play, and he has a good arm. If you see anything bad out of Cade, it's because of the past few years where he had an offensive line that as soon as he snapped the ball, he was running for his life. So he'll rush a pass still here and there, and some people gets all upset about it, but I'm like, y'all need to think about some of the poor habits he's picked up, and he's correcting. But Texas is going to come after Clemson. My main focus for Clemson is to be aggressive on both sides of the football. Know that this is a college football playoff game, and you can't get conservative in this game. You can't get in there, especially if you catch a quick lead or you catch a lead sometime in the game. You can't play not to lose. I don't know why I keep doing my fingers like that. Everybody should make fun of me. But I guess that's my thing today. But you can't come in and play not to lose, because when you do, guess what happens? You lose. So Clemson needs to keep the pedal to the metal. They need to be aggressive. Both sides of the football, their coordinators must call the best games of their life. Because if they get out of this game, they can go play Arizona State. And I have respect for Kenny Dillingham, but I'll tell you this. I'd rather play Arizona State than I would have to play Texas. And I think this would be a great moment for Clemson to get out of Austin, and then have to play Arizona State. So that's my focus. Coach a complete game, and it's going to have to be aggressive.
Clemson has certainly played better this year when they started quickly, and they started quickly in the SMU game, couldn't hold on to it. Do you think that Clemson gets, talking about their coaching staff, do you think they get kind of exotic? Do you think they just because they're a double score dog, do you think they, I don't know, pull out a trick play early? Do you think they try and do something a little bit different to just give Texas a different look? Or do you think that Dabo's not stubborn in a bad way, but just like, no, we're going to beat you the way we want to, if we're going to win the way we need to. We're not going to try and get tricky. Like, how do you think they start? And obviously the start to this game is key. I don't see Clemson coming back if they get down multiple scores. So just thoughts on the start for Clemson.
Yeah, I fully expect them to come out and try to catch Texas looking, give them some eye candy. We saw the very first touchdown of the SMU Clemson game was Cade pulling the ball down like he was going to run. He even tucked it, and at the last moment pulled up and threw a pass. And you could say, I won't say that's a trick play, but it's definitely eye candy and SMU bit. But I'm not really concerned about Clemson starting the game slow offensively to a point. For some reason, I have this feeling, maybe it's the Chinese food that I ate yesterday, but I have this feeling that they're going to come out and kind of throw the kitchen sink at Texas. But the biggest problem, keeping the pedal to the metal, knowing that, yes, you can't run trick plays all the time, but you're going to have to continue to be creative. You're going to have to look at what Texas is giving you or what they're starting to do and say, okay, against this particular scheme, what could I do to make them pay for their over aggressiveness? So Clemson's, for me, I think that they're going to come out really creative in the beginning. And we've seen that from time to time. We've seen that here and there from Garrett Riley. The question is, will you continue to do it? Because I'm with you. If they get down like 10-0 right off the bat, I just don't see the Tigers coming back from that.
Who's your X factor in this game? Do you have an X factor, or who you think is the difference maker for Clemson? Maybe one on offense, one on defense.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Cade Klubnik and his connection, this is kind of a bridge, kind of a the bridge between Cade Klubnik and his receivers. Our running backs are banged up, and that's sad. But Cade and his ability to get the ball to these incredible receivers that we have. I mean, the two true freshmen, especially Wesco, is playing his brains out. You have Antonio Williams doing his thing. Of course, we have the tight end, Brenningstool. But getting the ball in space to those wide receivers and stretching the field and not being afraid to use Cade's mobility to extend a play or just pull the ball and run. Let's go to the defensive side of the football. We have to continue to have a big game from our defensive line. T.J. Parker comes into this game just mowing over people in double-digit sacks. We want to see the true freshman Sammy Brown continue to play. He's like the second or third leading tackler on the team as a true freshman. Let the guy eat. Put him out there. Don't pull him for any reason. I mean, the guy, he was one of the only guys who was consistently making tackles in that very aggressive South Carolina game. So for me, just seeing the front seven be dominant in this game, to me, that's my factors for this game.
All right, Clemson, an 11.5-point dog based on the book that you're looking at, where you bet on this. What are your thoughts? Who can Clemson pull the upset? What's your prediction early in the week here?
Early in the week, and I haven't done my official prediction yet. My heart says Clemson. My football logic says Texas because where it's at. But I'm telling you, this would not be an Appalachian State going to Michigan in 2007 and beating them type of upset. I think that a lot of people are, as we get closer to the game, a lot of people are going to start looking at that schedule of Texas going, hey, I know they have a lot of really good players. I know that they have Sark. I know that Clemson's not up to snuff like they used to be. But as you know this better than I do, TJ, the closer and closer you get to a kickoff, more and more people stops running their mouth and starts paying attention to the schedule, the statistics, and they might start backing off going, hey, Clemson might pull the upset. But right now, I'm looking at the Longhorns winning this ball game, but it's not out of the question for my Tigers to win.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think Texas wins.
Yeah.
I do think Clemson covers, and I'm telling you, of all of the first round games, as it's the biggest spread. It is the upset that would surprise me the least. I'm Texas fans are going to light me up for this. I'm
Yeah,
pissed off the Clemson fans earlier. I'll piss off the Texas fans now. I'm not as impressed with Texas as maybe I should be. I don't think they're like the fifth best team in the country. Like I'm not as high on Texas as some. They may go out and win this whole thing. I don't know.
sure.
Who gets hot, right? But I'm just not as high on Texas as some, and I'm not as low on Clemson as some. The caveat, though, for me is that I think Texas has played pretty consistently all year, and they've just taken care of business. And yeah, they've lost close game to Georgia. They had one where they played pretty poorly against Georgia too at home. Clemson has just played so up and down. Clemson at their best, Clemson for the first three quarters of the SMU game, they could absolutely beat Texas. Clemson for the fourth quarter of the SMU game, or the way they played late against South Carolina, or the way they played Louisville, they'll lose by 30, right? And so
You're
that's,
right.
to me, Clemson's so hard to figure out because if they play well, if they play like they did even the first half against Georgia, the way their defense played, there are times where Clemson has just looked really, really good. And if you get that Clemson, they're going to be in this, and they have every chance to go upset Texas, especially like you said. Quinn hasn't played super well at times this year. Do they go to Arch? Does a true fresh, or not true fresh? Does a second year player, does he make mistakes? So I don't know. To me, that's where I'm at with Clemson. Is I tend to think that they'll play kind of average and keep it close. If they play well, they can absolutely pull off the upset in this one. So we'll see. It's going to be a week full of back and forth on this game and thoughts changing and stuff. But yeah, I've got them covering the spread as of now. Maybe as I drink more Kool-Aid through the week, I'll pick the ACC team on Friday before the games start to get kicked off. But Brian, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work, bud?
You can find me on YouTube, Clemson Football Live. Drop me a line and let me know that you saw me on TJ's channel, man. It's always a blast to be on here and just get people's heart rate up talking about football.
Yeah, Monday afternoon at noon. Nothing I'd rather be doing than talking ball with you and anybody else that wants to hang out and talk college football because it's the best thing in the world. So I appreciate you. Appreciate Bet US, man. We'll talk to you soon.
It's good to be on here and catch you later, man.